Elizabeth Holmes dropped out of Stanford when she was 19 years old, founding the blood testing company Theranos in 2003. A decade later, Holmes touted a revolutionary blood test from a semi-portable device named the Edison. It required only a finger prick of blood and cost a fraction of the market price. Word quickly spread throughout Silicon Valley, and Theranos was able to raise more than $700 million from investors. At its peak, the startup was valued at $9 billion. In 2015, Forbes named Holmes the world's youngest self-made woman billionaire. But all of this started to crumble in the fall of 2015.
She was a very young student, in retrospect, grand ambition, but seemingly not that pretentious. At the time, her voice wasn't low. She wasn't glamorized. She was just a normal-looking student.
That's Dr. Phyllis Gardner, a distinguished professor of medicine at Stanford University. Long before Holmes rose to fame, she came to Gardner for direction while as a student at Stanford.
She had an idea, and it was an idea that wasn't what she eventually tried to commercialize. It was a patch in which you could test for infection and then try to deliver antibiotics to it through microfluidics, which is just not possible. Antibiotics are not potent. That's why you have a huge IV bag.
Gardner remembers Holmes as being overly persistent, and not in a good way. Unable to get through to her, Gardner referred Holmes to her husband and a longtime friend, Karen Drexler, who had prominent careers in biotech and diagnostics, respectively.
I thought, well, maybe they can advise her, because I just couldn't. I mean, she wasn't listening, and her idea just wasn't going to work. So that was my encounter with her.
The two mentored Holmes from a distance as she started Theranos, but it quickly became clear that she didn't want any opinion that disagreed with her own.
She appointed a scientific advisory committee in which she put my husband and Karen Drexler, my friend, that I had referred her to, on the board. And they had the very similar experience, which was that she held one or two board meetings and then dissolved the board because she just didn't really want outside opinions. She had it in her mind. She knew what she wanted to do and that she knew she could do it and she didn't need any help.
This mindset continued as Theranos grew. Holmes cast out employees who raised concerns about the company, including scientists and engineers who were finding it impossible to automate hundreds of medical tests using a single drop of blood. Meanwhile, the company partnered with Walgreens, claiming the device, the Edison, was already up and running. While Theranos was falling apart internally, Holmes kept up public perception and deflected skeptics by maintaining that the science behind it all was a trade secret.
Just thought, this is ridiculous. I mean, there was no evidence that this worked. Her claims were extraordinary. So I had a lot of sort of peripheral evidence of the fact that this was a fraud and the fact that she was really very evil. I knew about the siloing long ago because I heard it from students who'd worked there.
One of those people was Adam Rosendorf, head pathologist at Theranos, who met up with Gardner shortly after he resigned.
He was very disturbed. He had just quit because it wasn't working, and he finally confronted her. He'd confronted her before, like when she launched at Walgreens, but she hadn't pulled the launch because he said it's just not working. And he also said they cheated on their CLIA investigation, which you just don't do.
But Rosendorf wasn't the only one with a story to tell. The irregularities began to come out in 2015 when Wall Street Journal reporter John Carreyrou started talking to people within the Theranos circle.
She was really running a very cloistered organization. John Carreyrou contacted me the 15th of January. And so I started helping him by telling him whatever names I knew and sources, and showed him around, showed him the new Theranos building. He's such a straightforward and Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist at the Wall Street Journal, and she refused to meet with him and then later said, well, he wouldn't meet with me. I mean, she's a quintessential liar.
Carreyrou broke the first of a series of investigative reports in October 2015. Through the accounts of former Theranos employees, he reported that the company was not using its proprietary technology, but instead diluting blood, and hacking third-party machines to test using conventional methods. Careyrou's reporting was the catalyst for regulators and other media outlets to start questioning the company's legitimacy, including Fortune magazine, who put Holmes on its front cover in 2014.
Roger Parloff of Fortune, he called me right after that because I was quoted in that first Wall Street Journal article, because John Carreyrou couldn't publish it unless he had 2 attributed quotes, and nobody wanted to give their names. But I said, well, I guess you can't do it if you tell the truth. And my quote was the truth. She had a rudimentary knowledge of engineering and no knowledge of medicine when she started this. And so Roger Parloff called me right after that came out, and he was questioning me. And then I got home and I wrote him an email. I said, Roger, you wrote one of those horrible puff pieces about her. He later, of course, apologized. He left Fortune. They didn't want him anymore.
Reporter Roger Parloff wrote a retraction article where he chronicled how Holmes had misled him, but the damage was already done. Looking back, why did it take so long to uncover the alleged fraud? How did so many people follow Holmes so blindly?
She refused to explain how our technology works. She refused, everything was a trade secret, and we're hand-waving, and they just said, no, go, because they won't invest in that. I was in a venture firm for 15 years in Silicon Valley. Nobody would invest with that kind of approach. The only true venture investor was Tim Draper, but he was a family friend. The rest of them were all friends and family, acquaintances or acquaintances of acquaintances. So when Tim Draper went in, and God knows what his relationship to her was, but he was the father of Elizabeth's best friend growing up. So he had plenty of exposure to her. And then Tim Draper convinced Larry Ellison to put in money. They didn't do due diligence. I mean, they didn't even check. And then it was people like Betsy DeFraud and Robert Kraft and various Rupert Murdoch and various high flyers who put in $100 million, $150 million each.
The charisma and connections Holmes developed played into her ability to lure not only investors, but Theranos employees and the media to believe in her cause. She was smart, young, pretty, and seamlessly played the role of a passionate Silicon Valley CEO. Gardner says she lowered her voice to come across older, wore black turtlenecks repeatedly, just like her idol, Steve Jobs, and attracted young talent with a mission to revolutionize the healthcare industry.
I had met some of her victims. I call them victims because she destroyed a lot of people along the way.
So, how do we stop another Theranos from happening again? Gardner and Carreyrou say what happened is an outlier in Silicon Valley. State inspectors and the Federal Drug Administration were allegedly lied to extensively by Theranos, and this failure to detect the alleged fraud has made regulators re-examine their practices. What can't be undone, however, is the damage to the lives of those that Theranos misdiagnosed.
She defrauded people of money, but worse, she put lives in jeopardy and lied about it and ruined a lot of people. She's very clever. Clever in the way I mean clever, which is, I'm so afraid she's going to convince the jury she was innocent, that she was a victim.
Holmes, along with Theranos' former president and COO Ramesh Sunny Balwani, are each facing 11 felony counts and up to 20 years in prison. Holmes' trial is expected to take place next August in San Jose. To find out more about Theranos and this story, visit viewpointsonline.net. Our writer-producer this week is Amira Zaveri. I'm Gary Price.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson paid for by the Sentinel Group. Attention military vets and current soldiers who served between 2002 to 2016. Have you or a loved one suffered hearing loss or tinnitus after serving or while serving in the U.S. Armed Forces? You may be entitled to compensation. 3M, the manufacturer of earplugs made for combat, recently paid the government $9.1 million to settle a False Claims Act case for knowingly selling these defective earplugs for over a decade. Specifically, the United States argued that the manufacturer knew their earplugs were too short for proper insertion insertion into users' ears and that the earplugs could loosen and therefore didn't perform properly or reduce noise the way they should have. If you or a loved one suffered hearing loss or tinnitus after serving or while serving in the U.S. Armed Forces, you need to choose the right legal team that has the experience, support staff, and resources to seek the most compensation for your injuries. Call the Sentinel Group now for more information and a free case review. Call 800-655-6458. 800-655-6458. That's 800-655-6458.
If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please call this toll-free number right now. 800-279-0419. That's 800-279-0419. By calling your addiction team, you're taking the first steps to recovery. Don't fight addiction alone. Their advisors are ready to take your call. Your future is still a bright place. The help you need could be one call away. 800-279-0419. That's 800-279-0419. This call is completely confidential, and if you have private insurance, there could be little to no cost to you. Even if you've already been to treatment, give us a call. There's no need to let addiction ruin your life. Take the first step now. Call your addiction team at 800-279-0419. That's 800-279-0419. Make the free call now. 800-279-0419. Your addiction team is a third-party advertiser for various treatment centers and placement networks. Individual results will vary. Visit youraddictionteam.com/terms for more information.
Thank you for listening to Viewpoints Radio, a production of Media Tracks Communications. If you enjoyed this broadcast, please support our show by subscribing, sharing it with a friend, and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. You can find more Viewpoints stories on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and viewpointsonline.net. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Viewpoints Radio.
Coming up on Viewpoints.
Once financially got cut from me, I was actually working 3 jobs. I was working about 72 hours a week.
Why it's important to understand the financial aid process. Then,
the idea of traditional masculinity is, to be honest, just a complete fabrication. The idea that men are supposed to be strong at all times is something that every man knows in his heart is not true.
How do you view masculinity?
these stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.